Looks like there might be more turnover in the White House, which means it's for another episode of As the White House Turns.
Made some very big mistakes.
I asked for his resignation.
I'm disappointed in the Attorney General.
Donald Trump has been feuding with his acting Defense Secretary Mark Esper. This has been going on for months. But now that Trump has made some pretty bad decisions that have backfired in the form of bipartisan criticism, he's decided to throw Esper under the bus and blame him for news of the administration attempting to defund Stars and Stripes. That's the military newspaper that we learned the Trump administration wanted to defund just last week. There was an outcry after that. And now Trump is changing his tune while also throwing someone who works for him, who he does not like, under a bus. That is my interpretation of this story. Let me give you the details. You guys can judge for yourselves. So White House officials spoke to NBC and they have talked to Veterans Affairs Secretary Robert Wilkie about taking the top Pentagon job should Trump decide to fire Esper. Two senior administration officials said Trump discussed the position directly with Wilkie at the White House last month. Two other senior administration officials said Wilkie had senior level discussions with the White House about becoming Trump's next defense secretary. Okay, so turnover is something Trump experiences quite a bit in his administration. What is the reason behind this? At least, what are the leakers within Trump's administration telling the press? Well, Esper, according to them, had been advised by multiple aides not to propose cutting the newspaper's funding, that's Stars and Stripes, because the move would draw political backlash. And it did from Republicans and Democrats. And so Trump later changed his tone on this issue, saying the United States of America will not be cutting funding to Stars and Stripes magazine under my watch. It will continue to be a wonderful source of information to our great military. But I'm not buying for a second that this is the reason why Trump wants to replace Esper with someone else. As I mentioned, he's had all sorts of issues with Esper in the past. Let me give you just a few of them. In June, for instance, Esper told NBC News that he would not support using the Insurrection Act to quell civil unrest across the country, even though Trump was leaving open the possibility of invoking the law to deploy federalized troops to respond to the protests. Now, we covered that clash quite a bit on the show, but there are other examples. In June, for instance, Esper said he was open to the idea of naming, or renaming military bases named for Confederate soldiers. But days later, Trump issued a series of tweets denouncing the idea, writing that my administration will not even consider renaming these magnificent and fabled military installations. He followed that up with respect our military. And there are other issues as well. But Cenk, I don't know how you feel about this story. I'm just not buying for a second that it was Esper's idea to defund Stars and Stripes, and that Trump was like, this defiant one who's like, no, our troops love the magazine. Away with Esper. No, I think that this was like a controlled leak within the administration to like throw Esper under a bus, blame him for something, while also justifying the new turnover that we're about to see in the administration.
Yeah, so the machinations of who wanted to cut Stars and Stripes, I don't know, but it doesn't matter much in that particular case because Republicans want to cut everything, and they certainly want to cut everything related to media. And that's not just Trump, that's the entire Republican Party. All in service, obviously, of tax cuts for the rich and for corporations. So I think there are two main issues here. One is, why does Trump actually want to get rid of Esper? And on that note, there's no question you're right. It's an open and shut case. So yeah, Esper not being as racist as Trump is problematic for Trump. He's like, oh, I love those Confederate general names. Oh, my racist base loves Confederacy, hates the Union. What was the other name for the Union? What, America? No, whatever, we hate it, okay? We've got to make America great again by turning it into a Confederacy. So, and that was a smaller issue. The larger issue was the Insurrection Act, because that was right after the photo op where they all walked together after clearing the protesters and Trump held the Bible upside down. That photo op in Washington, DC, Esper was there, and Esper came out afterwards when former Secretary of Defense General Jim Mattis came out and said, remember, the military has to be separate from the civilians. And that was Mattis's way of saying, look, if this guy tries to not leave office, if he loses, don't make any mistakes here. You will ruin this country. And after that, Esper came out and said, yeah, no, we're not doing an insurrection act to use the military inside American borders if the governors didn't ask for it. There's no way. And so that's what sent Trump off. And he wanted to fire him on the spot. But everyone tackled him, all of his advisors. They're like, no, the elections are around the corner. Don't fire your defense secretary, you look panicked. But the reality is, he looks panicked anyway. He's fired everyone in the building 7 times over. I actually think his advisors are wrong. His own supporters and people who are barely paying attention to the race aren't gonna care at all. It'll be his millionth fire, right? And all because they hurt his precious ego. And so that's definitely the main issue here. And Esper's a dead man walking politically. So whether he fires him today or right after the election, as he did with Sessions after the midterms, he's definitely a goner. And ironically, Trump makes fun of him by calling him Yesper, apparently, because that's the nickname he got for being a yes man. But actually, Trump's furious at him for not being a yes man, for not doing everything that he's told. But Anna, I gotta say, the second giant issue here is Trump, as usual, has no idea what's going on inside his own government. He's like, we're canceling Stars and Stripes, not on my watch. Dude, you're 4 years into your term. It's on your watch. It's not like Obama or Jimmy Carter tried to do it. It's your administration. It's just every day you wake up and you sound surprised at what's happening inside your own government because you don't do any work and you're a moron. So please stop acting surprised when your own administration does one thing after another after another.
Right. I mean, look, I don't personally read Stars and Stripes, and what I'm about to say is speculative, but look, I don't know whether or not Trump ordered defunding that magazine. What I do know is Donald Trump has made some moves that would unquestionably hurt troops and veterans. Remember, his administration is proposing cutting $2 billion in healthcare for our military and for our veterans. And so is that the type of news that would make it in Stars and Stripes? Would that hurt him with his conservative base? So I think that Trump's assault on media overall gives you a pretty good idea of what he wants to do to censor content, especially any content that might not portray him in any type of favorable way. But again, I'm speculating. I don't know for a fact that Donald Trump is the one who ordered the defunding of Stars and Stripes. What I do know is that Mark Esper allegedly proposing that idea is not the reason why Donald Trump wants to get rid of him. He's had issues with him for a while now. And Cenk, to your point about calling him Yesper, in an interview, Trump said, and this is the last graphic, some people call him Yesper. I get along with him fine. He's fine. No, you don't get along with him fine. A person who gets along with someone doesn't needlessly make fun of their name, like during an interview with the press.
Especially Trump. That he makes fun of people's names when he's about to fire them, and there was that great line from I think it was McEnany, where she was like, when asked about whether Esper's going to get fired, she said the defense secretary is still the defense secretary.
Right.
In other words, I don't know. Trump might have already fired him on Twitter. I have no idea, and no one does. It's Trump 101 to blame, to make people do things, then blame it on them and throw them under the bus. And the idea that he would be loyal to anyone, including his voters, is hilarious. He thinks loyalty is for suckers.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.